together. What do you think?
We love Ferrari.
We love Ferrari. What's my favorite color? Red. How fast do I like to drive? Well, fast. What's my favorite car? Ferrari. Catch me if you can. Last fall, we stopped by the Concours de Elegance car show, which is held on Hilton Head Island. Although it was an unusual cold, rainy weekend, it didn't stop us from visiting the show. We met with the Chief Judge Paul Ianuario and his son Rob, who are both judges, and they gave us great insight about what makes these cars so special. Did you know Concours means you have to be invited? So the cars that are shown are considered one of the best in their class. We had a chance to see a wide range of cars from fast and sporty to vintage and nostalgic. There is something for everyone. If you're a car enthusiast, you'll want to stay with us, so let's go and have some fun. Well, everyone, even the rain can't keep me away from being in a hot car. Who doesn't love this Ferrari? And I want to introduce you to Steve Standler, who is the Director of Marketing here at Ferrari.
Yes.
And we are excited because I had a chance to meet with you yesterday. I'm going to take that because we still have a little rain going on here. Ferrari's working with an initiative for having women, bring them into the fold
Yes.
of auto cars, having a feeling that they can drive these cars. So tell me about that program and what you're up to.
Yeah, sure. We've now started this program that we call Pedal to the Metal, and we've had over 200 women in about 8 different events so far. And it's really all in an effort to make these supercars less intimidating. You know, there are thousands of very successful women out there that can purchase the Ferrari like this, and we want them to see that it's easy to do.
Absolutely. And and I like that thought because oftentimes you think the car is a man's world, but every woman I know loves a nice looking car. So so if somebody's interested, the first step is how will they go about it? It's a little intimidating to show up at the dealer, right?
Absolutely.
So what do we do?
The best thing to do is either go to Ferrari.com or foreigncarsitalia.com, and then you can kind of learn about the cars and the products and things that are there. And you can actually configure the car yourself right there online on Ferrari.com. And then when you're ready to come into the dealership, then we know it's ready for you, and we can pull it up on the computer.
Isn't that wonderful? So tell me what's so special about this one. I know this is a really important, well, it's a special, tell me about that.
Yes.
I'm a newbie at all this.
Sure, this is called the Ferrari F8 Tributo, and this one is a spider version, which means the top can fold down and you can enjoy the sun, especially when you're out on the coast, have the top down, drive along the beach, and have all the performance and power of a Ferrari, 710 horsepower, 7-speed automatic transmission and paddle shift. So it's a great machine.
So, but let's go over here quickly.
Sure.
If you could pan this way, Joe, and look at the other cars that we have here. I mean, we love that red one, but tell me, again, we have rain, everybody, but we are not losing our enthusiasm here.
That's right. So this is the Ferrari Roma, named after the city of Rome, and La Dolce Vita, the good life. So this is a front-engine GT car. So a little bit easier to drive, a little bit more comfortable, whereas the red car is a race car for the street. This one is one that you can take up to the mountains and enjoy, or take it to anywhere you want to go and feel comfortable.
That's wonderful. And is there any other new models coming out? Or, I mean, there are always new things, but
Absolutely.
Are you bringing women to the designs of things?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, every new Ferrari is custom built. So you choose the leather, you choose the colors exterior, you choose the seat design. So there's so many different ways that you can customize this for your own style. So and women do specify cars differently than men do a lot of times. Colors are different, a little bit softer colors. They like those. So it's a great program.
This is Cindy Sisson, and who is part of this initiative for the women's program. Tell us a little bit about it.
What have you guys covered here?
We've covered the Foreign Cars Italia and Ferrari working with women and moved them from the right seat to the left seat.
Yeah, so we've had about 250 women since April in cities like Charlotte, Raleigh, Mooresville, Pinehurst, Nashville, test driving these amazing cars. They love them. They're actually buying them. Most of the time women feel they need to be invited. But we're having them show up and we're getting them really comfortable driving in the left seat.
Yeah, we also said there was supposed to be a test drive today, but Mother Nature has sort of put a little monkey wrench into that. But I just want to encourage gals, if you're interested in sports cars, do not be intimidated. Go for it. Contact the dealership. What do you think?
Absolutely.
Well, I want to introduce you to Rob Ianuario, who actually is the son of Paul, who we sat down and spoke to. But you are also a judge and aficionado of the cars yourself. So let's sit down for a second, and we'll have a chance to talk. I'm eager to find out. Obviously, judging is very important, and I'm eager to understand the concept, the purpose. What do you look for, and those things, and what makes this thing so spectacular?
Oh, that's tough. Starting backwards, what makes this so spectacular is this is sort of the Academy Awards of collector cars. With the art world, you have a traveling exhibition that may be on display at the Guggenheim or the Met. Cars are rolling sculpture, and this is a place where owners get to bring them out and put them amongst some of the best. So you'll see things here that you've never seen before, and I've been judging 20 years or so and going to car shows 40 years. There's still times I see stuff that I've never seen before and I'm blown away.
Really? So, I mean, what would that be? What would be one of the ones that you thought were surprising?
One of the neat things about this is there's different eras of the world. So in the brass era, 1914 or earlier, all of the cars the manufacturers were struggling just to make a car work, trying to figure out how to get something. And there were hundreds, if not thousands of cars made, but very few of them were ever successful. Then you move on into 1915 to 1925, known as the Decade of Ugliness. You're getting cars that are mostly designed based upon function, but then they're starting to get a little creative with swooping windshields or curvaceous fenders and things like that. Then by the time you get to the Great Depression, that was the roaring 20s, you could go in and buy a custom built car designed the way you wanted it on a chassis that you bought and have it what's known as a one-off custom. And then with World War II and the Great Depression, a lot of those cars got lost over time. And then you get into the muscle car era where you can find this particular Corvette that's only one of the 1970 Corvette with a 427 and a 4-speed and air conditioning and the vinyl top. So there's different levels of being unique, but it comes down to which ones survived and which ones didn't. And a lot of times, the cars that were too difficult to work on didn't survive. They got thrown into the scraps.
Isn't that interesting? I never heard it this way, like the history, the timeline of cars, and I found that very interesting. And then the ones that do make it and the ones that don't. So the ones who are here, who are 60, 70 years old, made it. The model
They're all survivors.
They are survivors. That's a really interesting way of putting it. So as a judge, when you go and look at different classes, are you looking at, what do you look at? I mean, kicking the tires. I don't want to kick any tires, but what makes a car win and not win?
First and foremost, we look for accuracy. If it was, say, a 1928 Model A Ford and it had Phillips head screws, we'd be docking points for that because the Phillips head screw wasn't invented until 1932.
So it's authenticity.
So we look for authenticity. You generally don't get invited to one of these shows if you're not authentic overall, but there are the little hose clamps and screws and things that people may miss. Once you get to that, then you look at the quality of the restoration. Is there orange peel in the paint, little drips, specks? Is it quality paint job, quality chrome work, or could it have been done a little bit better? And then finally what we're looking at is the overall presentation of the car. What is the elegance, or what is the presence? Because, you know, if you look at something that was built in 1929 for the president of Chase Bank, it's going to have a massive presence. It will not compete with, say, a 1929 Model A Ford. The Model A Ford may be a wonderful restoration, but a 1929 Packard, and I'm using this because my father has one, is just very visually impressive. It's a 145-inch wheelbase with 2 seats.
They're big.
It's about 3 tons. It's a huge car.
I guess that's called a mammoth.
It is. It's basically a train engine in the car.
Oh, really? Okay. So it's authenticity, and then what other things do you look for? I mean,
authenticity, quality, the presence of it. And it's always nice to talk to the owner. One of my favorite questions is, you know, because I'm a criminal defense lawyer, amongst other things, I like to do a little bit of a cross-examination of the owner. You know, say something like, "These are very interesting wheels. What can you tell me about them?" I had a friend in high school, he had a set of these Mickey Thompson aftermarket rims, and I always thought they were fantastic, and I found them and I put them on the car. I'm like, "Thank you very much." What you're saying is, these aren't the right wheels, but I'm not having to question that.
Right.
And sometimes you get really interesting stories. One Model T, it had maybe 11,000 miles on it. It was 1925 and unrestored. Original paint, original upholstery. It looked like it left the showroom floor. Asking the owner why it had just such low mileage but still looked good. The original owner was a drinker. And he jumped in his Model T and he went into town, did his thing, coming back in, fell asleep at the wheel and rolled off the road into a cornfield. So his family's going out looking for him the next day and they can't find him. They don't see that the Model T is in the cornfield. They find him later that day. They're very upset with him, so they take the wheels off of his Model T and it's sitting on logs. And when he would get a little sauced, he would go sit in his Model T, crank it up and let the wheels spin, but he would never be able to go anywhere with it. So the stories of the cars are also great, and that comes, you know, if you're truly fortunate, it's a car that's got great provenance. Otherwise, you've got to just kind of dig and look and ask the owner some questions, and usually the owner has that car for a reason. You know, I always like to ask, why do you have a Model T Ford or a 57 Chevy or a 29 Packard or a Duesenberg? Did you want it or did you find it? Because sometimes the story is, well, it was my grandmother's and it's just time to sell it. I didn't want to get rid of it. Or I had a friend in high school and he let me borrow it for my first date, and so I always wanted one of these. And sometimes it's the car that I just saw it. I thought it looked cool. I offered so much for it, they took it, and I came home and dealt with the consequences of explaining to the family why we have a 5th or 6th, or in this hobby, 20th or 30th automobile.
You know, I love these stories because this is why actually I have the show, is because sitting down here with you, Rob, and you're telling me a story from what your experiences, and I get a chance to talk to you, and you share these stories. And I just think there's so much interesting fun. I mean, who knew talking about taking the wheels off the car? That's one way to manage the dad, right?
Yeah, there's a lot of good stories in the world.
So Sunday is the big day. That is the grand day of when everybody gets to see.
That is the Concours of Elegance. That's where you see the 1s and the 2s of the world. Things that you'll probably not see at a local show.
Really, and this is a world-class event as well.
It is. There's cars from all over the world that come in for this.
So tell me about one other thing before I let you go. All right, you like fast foreign cars. So what's your favorite fast foreign car?
Oh, that is a tough one. I like any form of 8C Alfa Romeo. The Mercedes SLR was driven by my hero, Sterling Moss. Any vintage Ferrari in the racing days of Ferrari. The neat thing about Ferrari is it's the only car company that ever sold cars to pay for racing, whereas everybody else pays for racing to sell more cars.
So this is a beautiful Porsche. It's a 1968, and I love the car and I love the color, but look at this, everybody. As everybody knows, I'm a big skier, and you know what these are? These are skis from the 60s with the bear trap bindings. This is as authentic as it gets. All right, and Rob. Hi, everybody. Well, don't we love these cars? Look what I'm in. Beautiful, high performance, It's every guy's dream car. Actually, it's every girl's dream car too. Isn't it beautiful? I like the color. I want to introduce you to Kurt. Come on in and talk to me about the McLaren. These beautiful cars. I mean, you're here representing it for this show. Mm-hmm. Why are these cars so special? Why does everybody around here are just swarming?
There's so much to it. McLaren has always been a really, really special brand. And it has a long history of racing in virtually every racing series, being dominant in every racing series. And the newest cars, the one you're just in, is actually the GT. So this is a little bit different. This is going to be the most refined, the most comfortable, the most elegant, of course, is a perfect match. Still really high performance, but just a very different take specifically on GT. So it's going to be lightweight, innovative, very forward thinking rather than just reflecting the history of a GT car.
Really? Okay, so this is, what year is this?
This is a 2020.
Okay.
And the McLarens are a little bit different in that a little bit different as well, that we'll come out with a model, we'll finish a production run, and then we'll move on to another. So there's not newer generations of each car. They're not made for a certain number of years. We make a certain amount of each, and then we just move forward to a new vehicle.
Right. Yep. So how often are they special ordered, or?
It depends on the car. This is a great example with the GT. Another one here. These actually, we still have some models available.
Yep.
Otherwise, there's a car right behind you. This is another really exciting one, the 765 LT.
Wow, this is very sleek and very
hyper aggressive. This was actually just called by one of the most prominent automotive journalists in performance cars the best car he's ever driven on Laguna Seca, hands down, by far.
Because of performance, execution, acceleration, all those things.
All of those things, and that's a big thing with McLaren. They're incredibly fast. Things like 0 to 60 speed, top speed is important, but racing is all about the handling and what you can do with that power. And from the inside out, these are made to perform for track times, not just speed times.
And oh my, this beautiful car, it's a beautiful Porsche, and as a fashion segment, you know, we have to talk about that. Look at my outfit. I think I fit. I think I match. What a splash of fashion, huh? Let's keep going. And look who I found. I have the chief judge here. I have Paul Ianuario, and we're going to sit down over here and have a conversation about, you know, being the chief judge here at the show. It's a wonderful position to have because you know so much. But before we go into the show, I want to learn a little bit more about you. Okay. So let's sit down and talk about this. So I did a little research, and I found out that you are an engineer and a mathematician.
Yep.
So tell me how that all happened. I mean, life is so interesting to me.
Well, I decided early on that I like all things mechanical. And so engineering was a natural fit for me. I went to the local college and was able to take classes through Georgia Tech for 2 years, which basically put me at the point where I had an associate's in engineering. But then I had to specialize. It was a requirement. And I did not want to specialize because I was still trying to figure which field of engineering really excited me the most. And they were all equal. So I decided, well, if I could be a good physicist, because all forms of engineering start in physics, then nobody could tell me what kind of engineer I had to be. So I switched over to a degree in physics, and I was in that department for maybe close to a year when I realized I didn't have enough mathematics. And so I had to strengthen my mathematical skills. And so when I graduated 6 years later, I had an Associate of Science in Engineering, a Bachelor of Science in Physics, and a Bachelor of Science in Mathematics. But I had been working as an EIT, engineering training, for Babcock and Wilcox. And generally, when you decide that you want to become a professional, you have to have a licensed engineer sign the application. Well, I had a dozen of them because I've been working with them as a design draftsman in their engineering department. So in 12 months, I had mechanical licenses in 3 states. And I got a call from BMW. They said, we had a project we'd like you to do. And I said, well, I've sold the company. Well, we don't need the company, we need you. Okay. We want to talk. And I said, what do you want to talk about? Well, we're going to build a museum. And I said, I don't build museums, I build factories. They said, no, but you know all the car people and you go to car shows and you know how to do it. I said, I hate museums. They said, why do you hate museums? I said, because they tend to be places where people put stuff they don't want to be accused of throwing away. And if you go one time, you look, you go the second time, maybe they dusted the exhibits, but not much has changed. And I hate them. They said, well, what do you think a museum should be? I said, I think the building should be part of the experience. Yes. And I don't want straight rows. I want the aisles to meander around because it tends to disorient the visitor. And 15, 20 minutes after walking, they say, God, I've been walking 20 minutes and I ain't even covered this thing. So it gives an illusion that it's much bigger. And I said, I want things to change, even if it's as simple as moving a car from the left side of the aisle to the right. So next time they come in, they'll say, I thought that car was over there. I want things to change.
Right.
And I want an interaction capability between the visitor and the exhibit. And I want the building to be part of it. And they said, sounds good to us.
Let's talk about the nitty-gritties. You are the chief judge here, and people come and bring their cars to show.
Right.
Tell us about the event and who comes and shows their cars.
Okay, well, the event now is in its 19th year. Would have been 20th except for COVID. The first thing, a car show is not a concours. A concours is an invitational. You have to be invited to bring a car. And just being invited makes you a winner already because you had a car that was elegant or done well enough to be invited, okay? Well, people won't bring multi-million-dollar cars for just anybody to judge them. They want judges that have built cars and shown them themselves, that understand the competitive part of it, that maybe have written articles, that maybe have achieved some level of recognition. So the baseline is this: if you want great cars, you have to have great judges. And I'm fortunate enough that when I was involved in starting this event, that one of their people, Paul Doring, he was very enthusiastic, and he was the boots on ground. So Paul and I talked every week. We made multiple trips, the wife and I, down here to set the first one up. I was fortunate because by that time I had done other events, and I have about 50 judges that all I got to do is send them an email and say, we're doing an event. And they all say, count me in, count me in.
Tell us about the categories. How many categories do we have?
Well, that flexes a little bit. There's traditional categories you always try to have, which very early cars, which we call brass cars. There's pre-war cars, which is everything made prior to 42, with the exception of classics. And then the classics are cars that were hand-built, for very expensive, for individuals who could afford them, or they had extravagant body styling or engineering for their time period. And that's full classics. And then you have post-war cars, 45 until today. But in there, we spawned a bunch of different ones. We had straight rods and hot rods, and the two are not the same. We had muscle cars. What's a muscle car? We had contemporary classics, sports cars, both European and American. So to cover all the traditional classes, you're going to have probably a dozen that are expectations to the audience coming to see them. But
it's a surprise. Do we have a surprise class here?
Yes, we do. But sometimes we do. We started because everybody has become a cookie cutter. We try to do things different. Like we might do a class, for instance, on the car you'd best like to take a vacation in.
Oh, I like that idea.
Or micro cars, which are little bitty cars, or subcompacts.
And will we have some of those cars here?
You will have some of those here.
So what would be like the surprise that one of the
We have several surprises this year. To start with, I think everybody that's a car enthusiast has heard of the Stutz. So we're focusing on Stutzes this year. More Stutzes in one place than I think any other concours had in years. But the other thing is Duesenbergs. Everybody's heard of a Duesenberg. We have this year as a special vehicle the first Duesenberg ever built and sold to the public. Because Duesenberg were two brothers, Fred and Augie, that built race cars. And the cars were very powerful, very fast.
What year is this car?
This is a 21, I think, or 22.
Oh, it's a new car. I mean, it's a
It's a
newbie.
new car.
It's a newbie.
But it's a very unusual car. It was designed for an engineer on a sugarcane plantation in Hawaii. And he was a big gentleman, so the car had to be built to accommodate his statue.
Right.
But very interesting car. If you like Duesenbergs, how can you not see the first one? And we'll have the first one.
Well, I love your passion, you know, Paul. I'm just sitting here. I can talk to you for another hour, but we have to get out and start taking a look. So I want to thank you so much for sharing your time with us. I will look for you as the days go forward into the event, and I want to get a recap from what you see, but thank you very much.
Well, thank you for taking the time to talk with me.
Due to the weather, we weren't able to see as much as we wanted to, but even the cold temps and rainy days couldn't stop us from having a great time. I really enjoyed speaking with Chief Judge Paul Ianuario and learning about his rich history in the auto industry, and his son Rob Ianuario, who's also a judge. Rob gave us a wonderful perspective of the timeline of the evolution of cars. Be sure to mark your calendars. The Concours d'Elegance is scheduled for November 4th to the 6th, and it's being held at the Port Royal Golf Club. And you know what? We'll be back. In case you've missed any of our previous episodes, please visit our YouTube channel, Coastal with Kathryn. Subscribe, like, and share so you don't miss a thing. Well, thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time. This is Coastal with Kathryn.